Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Searching for Service. I'm Kelly Kirk, and with me is Joseph Kirk. We are very excited to have a guest in-house today, Elaine Bouman. But before we get into that...
Yeah, I thought I would share our purpose of our show. And the purpose of our show is to connect future and current Rotarians through service and to tell amazing stories of not only of service projects that we've done in the past, but also the awesome organizations that we help support as well. And all of this is to help you, the listener, connect to Rotary, as we believe it is the best vehicle for service.
Ooh, that was good. Loved it. So welcome to our guest, Elaine, and welcome to our listeners as well. We're excited to have our listeners tune in and hear and learn all about you. And so really for this first section, we're going to dive into everything about you.
To you, the person.
Yes. And then we'll dive into the STEP program so our listeners know a little bit more about that as well. But let's go ahead and get started. Tell us, where are you from?
I'm from River Falls, Wisconsin. And
you made the trek.
Yeah, I made the trek over here. Just under an hour.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. It's so nice having you in studio. You know, we do this in all different formats. We'll have people that are virtual. We've had people from the other side of the world on the show, but it's always the best when they can come in studio because we can kind of drive off of each other and we get a little bit more information from one another. So it's really great to have you in studio.
Absolutely. Are you like originally born and raised in Wisconsin?
Yes. In fact, I was born and raised in River Falls.
Okay. So you're a fellow Wisconsinite, as I like to say. I was born and raised in La Crosse, Wisconsin.
Have you spent your whole life in River Falls? Have you moved and come back?
I moved and came back.
We call those boomerangs.
Yeah. A towny boomerang.
Yep. And that is certainly the case with a lot of my fellow friends down in La Crosse, too. So, with that being said, where did you transition from River Falls?
Well, I went to college in River Falls, so I stayed all the way through my early 20s and then taught in southern Minnesota, in Stewartville, Minnesota, for a couple of years.
Yep.
And then my husband and I got married, and I moved to Lafayette, Indiana with him, where he was in school at Purdue, and spent a year in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, and then moved back to South St. Paul back to the area, and lived in South St. Paul for 9 years. And then eventually moved back to River Falls.
Okay. So you've been around.
Yeah.
Very
Stayed
nice.
pretty Midwestern.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's nothing wrong with that. There really isn't.
That's why we're all here. We love the Midwest.
Yeah. We also love the damage that ensues from snow, too. So we just love that.
Or snowmageddon.
Exactly.
So tell us, what did you do, or what do you do, and what have you done? What was the career path for you?
Well, I was a music teacher, instrumental music, band, and I had taught in each of the locations that where we lived, and then eventually as we moved back to River Falls, I taught for 5 years there, and then moved into administration and spent the last 20 years of my career as a middle school and then a high school principal.
Very nice.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Finished up as a principal.
Moving up the ranks.
And then how did you find Rotary and all of that?
I think my first introduction to Rotary was when I was middle school principal, and my older son received a scholarship from the newly formed Rotary Club in River Falls. And so the little bubble, lit up, and Rotary was on the radar screen for me. Then I became high school principal and was invited to join Rotary, but did not right away, for just a number of reasons. But after a little while, I was finally convinced to join Rotary, and I've been very happy that I did.
Awesome. And so are you a part of, which Rotary was it that you joined?
River
It was
Falls.
River Falls.
Yeah,
Okay.
River
Cleverly
Falls
named.
Rotary Club. Yeah.
I know, right? So then, I guess I wasn't aware of this, that 5960 goes across the border into Wisconsin, too.
Yes, it goes all the way to, to Richmond and north, up to
Okay.
Hayward and Webster, Wisconsin.
Sure.
So
Okay,
there's
that's-
a long swath of Wisconsin up
Interesting.
north that is included in 5960.
Very, very interesting. So how long have you been a part of Rotary then?
Been in Rotary since about 2007, I think.
Okay.
Wow. That's 25 years.
Well, 16.
Or 60. Sounds
Math.
sounds like I need to go back to school.
We'll talk about that later.
Feels like 25 years ago.
So then I'm assuming this is how the STEP program came to fruition. And we'll talk about that here in the next section, of course. But I'm assuming that's how you were introduced.
Yes,
it?
through Rotary Youth Exchange. When I was first in Rotary, I was helpful. I was on the Rotary, what do they call it, the Youth Exchange Committee.
Okay.
But I waited until I retired to be the Youth Exchange Officer because it was an awkward position, to be. And actually, Rotary has regulations about not having somebody in authority in school being the youth exchange officer. So, but I was always interested in the exchange programs. We've hosted exchange kids in our own home. Our own kids have traveled abroad, and we've traveled abroad with our kids. So, I always was interested in the youth exchange kids that came into the high school, and then eventually was intrigued by helping out students that were going abroad and coming from abroad.
What was your favorite location that you had a student from?
Oh, Spain.
Spain?
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
And is that, what was the reasoning behind that?
Well, for a while, I took my Rotary Youth Exchange hat off, and I became a host parent.
Sure.
And she lived with us then for 4 months, and it was so fun after having two grown-up boys. It was fun to have a girl in the house, and they got a large charge out of having a little sister, to spoil. And we've kept in contact with this young lady.
That's great.
So I traveled to Spain a couple of years ago, and visited with her there, and so that's my favorite.
That is so awesome and unique at the same time too. I was going to ask if part of the reason was because there was a swap, and then it gave you guys the opportunity to go over there as well. But personally, it sounds like you just went over there to Spain.
Yes.
So, where in Spain was it? Just out of curiosity.
Alicante on the East Coast. It's kind of a resort town. Beautiful area.
Well, and who did we just have on? That is the country
officer.
Eric Johnstone.
Yeah, so what a great connection there.
Yeah. Do you have close connection and conversations with Jackie and Eric then? Because this is all through North Star, correct?
Right, all the time.
Yeah, okay. So you guys are in very close communication.
Yes, we're all part of the leadership team.
And we kind of skipped over it a little bit, so sorry about that. Can you tell us your title within North Star?
I am the STEP team leader.
Okay, and then we're going to get into that. That's the short-term exchange program.
Yep. Right, STEP is the acronym for that.
Yeah.
Which is fun because we've had a lot of exposure in talking to the longer range time frame, but we're really excited to hear a little bit more about the shorter term, what differentiates it, and those type of things. So, I tell you what is one fun fact about yourself that you'd be willing to share with our audience?
Oh.
That even your fellow Rotarians would be like, really?
That's a good one. Well, even though it wasn't a youth exchange experience, at 18 I worked abroad for a summer.
Okay.
I
Where? Canada?
No, Malm, that's Austria. A little village in Austria. It's a little ski village. And I found out about it from an ad in a New Yorker magazine. Jobs abroad, apply here.
Oh my gosh!
In the
how
New
cool
Yorker.
is that?
I know. And I was excited about it. I shared it with 3 other friends. We all did it that summer. We all went abroad that summer and worked. And we weren't working in the same place, but it was kind of a shared experience when we came back. That going to college as a freshman was easy.
Love it.
Awesome.
Look at that perfect timing. As a reminder, you are listening to Searching for Service. I'm Kelly Kirk.
And I'm Joseph Kirk.
Don't miss Leonard Skinner, Darius Rucker, REO Speedwagon, and Tyler Hubbard at Lakefront Music Fest, July 14th and 15th at Lakefront Park in Prior Lake. Leonard Skinner headlines July 14th with REO Speedwagon and Blackstone Cherry. Darius Rucker headlines July 15th with Tyler Hubbard of Florida Georgia Line and Joe Nichols. Tickets available at lakefrontmusicfest.com. That's lakefrontmusicfest.com. Produced by Prior Lake Rotary.
Riverbend Nature Center is a free, nonprofit natural habitat in Faribault, Minnesota, with 743 acres, the Straight River, and 10 miles of trails. Despite no public funding, it offers educational programs to almost 10,000 youth and families annually. Riverbend seeks your feedback on its new strategic plan at rbnc.org/strategic-planning by March 30th. Thank you for your time.
Hello and welcome back to Searching for Service, brought to you by Rotary District 5950 and 5960. I'm Kelly Kirk.
And I'm Joseph Kirk.
As a reminder, you can find us on your favorite podcast platforms.
And we love the 5-star reviews. Tell you what, audience, we've gotten some of our numbers back, and thank you so much for supporting our show. We've been pleasantly surprised by the number of viewers that we are seeing. So thank you all for tuning in.
Thank you very much. If you're tuning in for the first time, we have Elaine Bouman with us. She is the team lead for the STEP program through North Star. And so you guys might be wondering, what the heck is the STEP program? And so, Elaine, I'll let you take the floor and share, what is the STEP program?
Well, STEP, S-T-E-P, is the acronym for the Short-Term Exchange Program. It's different from the regular exchange program, or what we refer to as the long-term, in that it is it's a summer program, usually. I mean, there are some exceptions, but it's generally a program that occurs in the summer. It could be a family-to-family exchange, which is usually about a 2-month exchange, or it could be a camp, an international camp that's available to students. Yeah. Many of them are available in Europe, and those are usually 2 to 3 weeks in length. The short-term exchange program, the most common is the family-to-family, and that is where 2 high school students between the ages of 15 and 17 get paired together based on common interests, and the students spend 1 month in one country, and then together the other month, the second month, in the other country. So it's not just 2 students, it's really a family to family. Yeah. The whole family's involved on each side.
Okay. So let me just make sure that I'm following correctly. Mm-hmm. So let's say, for instance, somebody was coming here first to the United States from, let's say, Spain. Mm-hmm. And so they're here for those couple of months with that family. And then after that period of time, then there's the exchange, and they do it over there in Spain as well. Correct. Just with the student. So the student then goes and spends. Got it. Mm-hmm. Okay.
And it's usually about 1 month each. Just because of the school year with both countries.
Sure.
4 weeks. We've had them as short as 2 weeks, but usually it's 4 weeks. And the U.S. students typically go first because our school year is finished first.
Sure.
So they have the flexibility to go, and maybe they'll spend a few days with their partner in their school in Europe, and then they spend the summer together. Sometimes they vacation with the family. Sometimes it's just local sightseeing.
Okay.
But living with a family abroad, and then they usually come back together, fly back together, and spend the last month here.
Wonderful.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, it's good to have a better idea of what that concept truly looks like. So I didn't realize that they did the travel together too. So that's good to know.
It's kind of a fun experience also that they share if they can fly back together.
You got to hope that they get along, right?
You know?
I am certain that there have been those circumstances where they don't.
Yes. Unfortunately, but by and large, the experiences are great. There are some really outstanding matches where kids have gone back and forth and kept in touch multiple times. After that friendship is made and the families are connected, even the families travel back and forth. But there have been some that, let's call it early.
This just isn't working out.
Do you guys do anything to prepare the student for that relationship? Like have a little bit, like kind of coach them up on having a little bit more open-mindedness. They're not going to do everything like you do.
Absolutely.
Creative tension.
Yes, that's a nice term. I might use that. Yes, we definitely do. Now, tomorrow we're interviewing some students, and we're going to have an orientation there. And we have, we have the nuts and bolts. You need to get this paperwork done. But we'll also give them some things to think about. When do I bug my sisters and brothers the most, and thinking about they're going to be living with a family for a whole month.
Yeah.
And sometimes going to a friend's house overnight is maxing out a relationship. So these young people. Yeah.
Is that why people never stayed over at my house more than one day?
I'm not judging. No. But
yes.
But in reality, that's exactly what we do is we coach them, and there are going to be things that are going to be strange, and there are going to be things that will be absolutely wonderful. I spoke with one young lady yesterday because I was asking her to come for our orientation to speak to the students. And she said she got along with the family really well, but the best part was the food. And she said she would have stayed for just the food even if she didn't like anyone else. But that was not the case.
Speaking to Joe's heart over there, he's such a foodie.
Well,
I have to ask. I want to know some more details on like up front what the process looks like in the matching and kind of behind the scenes on how that process actually happens, so that you truly try to find the best match, the best fit, and make sure that it is a cohesive relationship. But I'm so curious on what that process up front looks like.
Well, there's an interview, and we ask some questions about what kind of a match they would like to have, what qualities would they like in a match. And sometimes it's being athletic and active, and sometimes it's liking to shop and cook. The students each write a letter in their application, and there are prompts and questions that they have to answer. It gives us a profile of the student's likes, dislikes, strengths, weaknesses. Parents write a letter to the host, their host family, the partner family, and also describe their student. How does the student handle tense situations, and disagreements, and so we take a look at that profile, and the kids do sports. They're very active physically. They're we want to have them with somebody who can be athletic and involved also. In Europe, they call it sporty. That's my little
sporty spice.
Yes, or we have somebody who lives on a lake, and they spend a lot of time doing water activities.
Are they lakey?
They're not lakey. No, but we say I might want to have a partner that's at least comfortable with the water, on the water, and so we write up a little profile and age. First name, age, and that's just kind of my little thumbnail profile, things they like to do. They think they would like to go to Spain. and that would be their first choice. Then I have a counterpart in Spain, and that's all listed in some Rotary documents that we have. And I send just that little profile information. 17-year-old girl likes biking, running, water activities. And he says, I might have a match for that.
Sure.
And so if it looks right, then we will send application, the longer application to each other, read it through. Yep, still looks like it's a good fit, comparing my student application to their student application. And then we will contact, we'll say, yep, let's move it forward. He'll contact his kids or his family, and I'll contact my family. Do you accept this match? And they can take a look at the application. And if they accept, then we give them contact information, and they start talking to each other.
Sure.
At that point, it moves into their, their own arrangements. And with Zoom, they can meet each other right away and make all kinds of arrangements.
My gosh, of course.
So
that's really cool. Any follow-up questions there, Joe?
No, I'm curious too, like how often does a short-term student become and go back in and do the longer-term program?
Sometimes. But I find that the short-term students, the students who are interested in a short-term exchange would often be students who would not consider a long-term exchange because of the length and missing out of school things. And I think if I can backtrack a little bit, as a principal, I would see a lot of really great student ambassadors, because this is what we want to do, is create student ambassadors that really weren't considering a long-term exchange because they were captains of the football team. Yeah. They were wanting to take AP classes. They had a lot vested in their high school experiences, and these would be the kids that would jump at an opportunity for a shorter-term exchange if they could keep everything else running when they got back.
Sure.
So
I feel like that's a really good teaser into our next section, talking more about the kids and who decides that they want to get involved. So thank you for teasing that, teeing it up. So as a reminder, you're listening to Searching for Service. I'm Kelly Kirk.
And I'm Joseph Kirk. We'll see you in the next segment.
Don't miss Leonard Skinner, Darius Rucker, REO Speedwagon, and Tyler Hubbard at Lakefront Music Fest, July 14th and 15th at Lakefront Park in Prior Lake. Leonard Skinner headlines July 14th with REO Speedwagon and Blackstone Cherry. Darius Rucker headlines July 15th with Tyler Hubbard of Florida Georgia Line and Joe Nichols. Tickets available at lakefrontmusicfest.com. That's lakefrontmusicfest.com. Produced by Prior Lake Rotary.
Riverbend Nature Center is a free, nonprofit natural habitat in Faribault, Minnesota, with 743 acres, the Straight River, and 10 miles of trails. Despite no public funding, it offers educational programs to almost 10,000 youth and families annually. Riverbend seeks your feedback on its new strategic plan at rbnc.org/strategic-planning by March 30th. Thank you for your time.
Welcome back to Searching for Service, brought to you by Rotary District 5950 and 5960. I'm Kelly Kirk.
And I'm Joseph Kirk.
And as a reminder, if you are tuning in for the first time, we have Elaine Bouman, who is the North Star team leader for the STEP program. And so from our last segment, she had teed up for us the kids who decide to get involved in the STEP program. We're going to go a little bit deeper into their profiles. So let's talk about that.
By asking a direct question.
I know. I was trying to think of a direct question, and I couldn't think of one.
So in the last segment, we talked a little bit about the shorter term typically really attracts people that are really invested in their school year curriculum. So they're not going to take the full year break because they're in sports or they're in activities that really bring them and hold them close to home. Are there any other characteristics of people? I mean, I think of it as like, hey, it's kind of a cool, like, longer vacation.
Yeah.
Well, yes, we've had some students who have enjoyed their program, their short term, and then decided to do a long term, that it was worth, the experience of being abroad. We have had some that have gone the other way as well, that have done long term.
Oh, sure.
And then, I'd really like to, I have another summer here, I would really like to have another international experience, perhaps someplace else in another country. So it goes both ways. If I may start back at when I was the youth exchange officer and working with long-term students, someone had mentioned there's an option that we're going to start called a short-term exchange. And after just being the high school principal, I thought of all the kids that should be doing some sort of an exchange, broadening their horizons, being great ambassadors for American, just great ambassadors for Rotary. So I was pretty enthusiastic about it right away, and I said, yes, sign me up. I'll be on the team with you. And since then, going out and being the recruiter for the short-term exchange, I find that it's a little less shall we say, a little less overwhelming to think of. It'll just be the summer that my child will be gone, and really only a month, and then we'll have an opportunity to come back. So it's
a little easier to sell.
Yeah, it's a lot easier to sell. A lot easier to sell. So I found that there was a lot of enthusiasm for that, and the first year we did it, we had, I think, two girls. And I'm going to talk about my hometown, River Falls. We had 2 students from River Falls go. The next year, we had 6, and it just kind of snowballed. And what it did for long-term exchange was raise the awareness that there is an exchange program in River Falls and with Rotary. And even though they weren't long-term exchange students, it brought long-term exchange students along with it. And it also provided an opportunity. Okay, many clubs do not do the long-term exchange because they have difficulty finding host families.
Sure.
Yep.
This program opened doors. There was a whole group of students and families that had done the short-term exchange that really enjoyed hosting for that month. And sure, we'd be happy to host a long-term student. And for that little honeymoon period between the start of the STEP program in North Star and COVID, our district or our club was rolling through exchange students, and we could take 1 or 2 and find host families quite readily. COVID, however, put a hard stop to everything, and we're just rebuilding now on that respect.
We'll talk a little bit more about the rebuilding phase, because everybody that we've had on that's talked about the youth exchange, so we've had 3, you're the 4th, we've kind of done it all month, there's really big challenges with getting it restarted again. And do you feel like that the short-term program could be kind of that catalyst? Because it's like I could see where having your kid away for a year when we're still kind of putting the pieces all back together, but that 1 month or 3 month or however you want to look at it, the journey could be a little bit more palatable. So does it seem like that's the kind of the inroad?
I think it's contributing to the vibrancy and the health of the whole program, both long-term and short-term, for just that reason. Familiarity. Yes, I know about the Rotary Youth Exchange program. Experiencing it, a lot more willingness to step out and do the long-term as well. So, yes, and I see our program doubled in size this past year. We had 11 students that went out last year. We have 24 that will be participating this year. At our largest, we had over 40 students. So we're working back. Yeah, we're working it back.
Well, the doubling of the number has to be really, satisfying.
Very gratifying.
Yeah,
very gratifying.
Because if you can continue to double that,
Yeah.
You know, you're going to be there before you even know it.
Whoops. A little
Slippery little suckers.
slippery hair, I guess. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's very satisfying to have that many students participating and word of mouth. I don't care what you say. You know, it's word of mouth. It's a parent to parent saying it was a great experience for my kid. One student, rarely do I hear a student that comes in and says, when we ask, how'd you find out about this program? Do they say, I saw a sign in the the school cafeteria? It has happened. It has happened, but it's not the typical way. It's usually my friend's sister did it, my friend's brother did it.
Through the grapevine.
Right.
Sure.
There's word of mouth.
You have such a unique experience, too, with being in the schools. That's the other thing that we've heard from the other folks is getting in front of the schools has been challenging. Mm-hmm. How have you used your background to kind of help bridge that?
All the time. How do I?
Yes.
But I have, former colleagues, the people that that had worked with me, foreign language teachers, world language teachers, guidance counselors, and I'm using old terminology here. I should say school counselors and world language teachers. I think that's the terminology now.
Did they change it, really?
But if they put the posters up and you can talk to them and explain the exchange program, they are wonderful ambassadors for recruitment of students. And I've had students who have gone abroad, who have been on this short-term program. The parents are teachers in the schools, and they also are great spreaders of the news, if you will. I mean, I have a couple of schools that I have contacts that I can go in and visit, but there also is a great network of contacts in the schools. So. Well,
and I'm assuming there are going to be a lot of people listening to this show that are in a similar situation as you all over. Mm-hmm. And, what's the one piece of advice then? Because it sounds like that you've been able to get some inroads with your network. So if you're coming from a place that maybe you don't have that same network, what's the piece of advice for all those that are trying to really pitch their youth exchange program? Like, what's the one piece of advice that you'd give them?
Okay. Well, and let me ask a clarifying question here. For a club that wants to launch a program,
or has it? Let's just say that there's Northfield or Edina or St. Cloud as they're trying to grow their youth exchange program. What's the piece of advice for those that are heading that up?
Okay. If they have had a student that's gone out, get that student in front of other students and share that experience. And I guess, somebody had said that there is a letter, and I can't say that I've seen it, so I maybe shouldn't, but that there is an explanation of why a school administration should support youth exchange. And it doesn't the benefits of it doesn't even talk about youth exchange per se, but it talks about global citizenship. And and as they say, I had not seen it myself. I heard a lot about it, talking to other youth exchange districts throughout the country and the world. But
sure.
It seems to make sense.
I mean, well,
better people make better citizens.
I mean, both of my kids have worked abroad, and I hear of so many friends, young people work abroad, and I'd love to get some Labor Department statistics to talk about how many of our students currently in secondary schools will work abroad sometime in their lifetime, because I think it would surprise us, and I would love to work on that aspect of youth exchange.
We should dive further into that into our next section, because I think it'll go hand in hand. So thank you so much for tuning in to Searching for Service. We'll see you in the next segment. I'm Kelly Kirk.
And I'm Joseph Kirk.
Don't miss Leonard Skinner, Darius Rucker, REO Speedwagon, and Tyler Hubbard at Lakefront Music Fest, July 14th and 15th at Lakefront Park in Prior Lake. Leonard Skinner headlines July 14th with REO Speedwagon and Blackstone Cherry. Darius Rucker headlines July 15th with Tyler Hubbard of Florida Georgia Line and Joe Nichols. Tickets available at lakefrontmusicfest.com. That's lakefrontmusicfest.com. Produced by Prior Lake Rotary.
Riverbend Nature Center is a free, nonprofit natural habitat in Faribault, Minnesota, with 743 acres, the Straight River, and 10 miles of trails. Despite no public funding, it offers educational programs to almost 10,000 youth and families annually. Riverbend seeks your feedback on its new strategic plan at rbnc.org/strategic-planning by March 30th. Thank you for your time.
Hello and welcome back to Searching for Service, brought to you by Rotary District 5950 and 5960. I'm Kelly Kirk.
And I'm Joseph Kirk.
As a reminder, you can find us on your favorite podcast platforms.
And we do love those 5-star reviews.
If you are tuning in for this last segment of Searching for Service, we have Elaine Bouman of the North Star team. She's the team lead for the STEP program, and that's short-term exchange program. So this last segment, we really love to dive into the bigger, broader vision of whatever program it is for the guest that's visiting us. And so tell us, we did a little bit of a lead in, so let's actually go back to that, because you were talking about pulling from the Bureau of Labor Statistics and stuff. What, Joseph? You were talking about that, so what would that look like?
Well, you know, I would just like to know how many students that we have now at the high school age that are eligible to do some sort of experience abroad, kind of looking and getting along with people that are different and in a different culture, but, you know, not choosing to make the commitment of a full year where they really become culturally immersed, but being sensitive to living in a different culture, living with families that are different, that you just are dropped in cold. What a great experience for these kids to cope with a lot of other, I don't know, what do you want to say, with a changing world, with being able to pivot quickly and somewhat culturally smart, into the new world. But I just think travel abroad is one of the best ways for kids to broaden their mind and to...
It just creates so much social context.
Absolutely.
And it helps them adapt to very difficult situations, be more likely to find a diplomatic solution to things, hint politics. You know, one thing we talked about off air that I thought was really fascinating, we talked about COVID. We talked about how, you know, the long-term program has kind of been the star the whole way. And with everybody kind of getting back to, you know, being away again, and it really seems like what would make sense is to shift to the shorter term program as kind of that stepstone for everybody to get more comfortable with that program again. So it'll be fascinating to see if in the coming years we see that shift. I mean, would that be something that you would like to see? I mean, obviously as the STEP director.
Well, certainly. I would love to see, you know, STEP. I would love to see long-term, expand again. But whichever direction we start out and move forward with, it's going to be the right direction for us. And, you know, there's no right or wrong or no better program. There's just the differences in the program and the differences of the students that go into it. But absolutely, I would love to see if STEP would be able to feed, you know, directly or indirectly, the progress and the growth of the long term. Absolutely love to see that too.
I think that the program has to look at that and say, you know, we're really lucky that we have the ability to adapt one way or the other, right? You know, kind of read the room and say, okay, what seems to fit the mold the best now? And, you know, my take on it, which, take that for what it's worth. It would seem that the short – because I think about it and I'm like, gosh, if I was sending my kids for a year, there's just so much uncertainty out there and we're still kind of figuring everything out and we're still getting comfortable again, even though it's 3 years since 2020.
Yeah.
But you would just think like, okay, a month or 3 months, that's okay. I can get my head around that as a parent, right? Mm-hmm. And go, wow, this is really great. And then it's self-reinforcing.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Like that's probably the coolest thing about that program is it's self-reinforcing. The kids come back, wow, look at what I learned. Look at all the great things. Yep. Cool, I want to go. And, we were talking about that briefly is where, the best thing is word of mouth.
Yes.
And so just whatever creates word of mouth. So it will be interesting to see what the future holds for it. Is there anything else within the program that you would like to see expanded, maybe brought back? I'm not sure what was left or brought back. Is there anything that is in your like magic wand that if you could how would it work?
If I were king?
Yeah.
Well, okay. Doing a program like this, there's always the system that supports it. And if and we're getting better, but the system is still building behind it. There's a lot of enthusiasm for the participants, but for those of us in the background with child protection and meeting any international requirements and privacy,
I see.
We're still working with some of those. What do you want to call it? Some of those hurdles.
Yeah.
but they get better all the time. And before I forget, too, I'd like to talk a little bit about the camps aspect.
Oh, yeah.
The family to family is by and far and away the most popular. That is an easy thing to understand. But Europe has had a tradition of offering camps for international groups for years. And we have right now about 40 announcements for 42 camps around the world. Europe, even some in Egypt, Amazon and Brazil, where students can work with a little mini UN group, 1 or 2 students per country, and have this camp experience where English is the common language, and then they do some sort of an activity. It might be learning to sail up in the North Sea, or it might be doing an archaeological dig in Egypt, or on a boat on the Amazon for an environmental study. So there are a broad array of camps, too, that students who may not even have the full summer might want to do an experience, a camping experience.
What's the length of time for the camp?
The minimum is 10 days. The maximum is about a 3-week camp. I can think of one right now that is bicycling around the island of Taiwan is at camp for 3 weeks. We just had a young man in North Star who went to Taiwan over Christmas vacation for a camp there, which was a cultural camp at Sun Moon Lake, and had a wonderful experience. Was willing to give up his Christmas vacation to travel to Taiwan, and I said, so tell me about the worst part of the camp. He said, there wasn't a worst part. It was wonderful, all of it.
That is so cool.
He said maybe that he was tired for a couple of days, but that was it because it's a long trip.
So would something be where we host some of these camps could be a really cool opportunity?
That is in the works. We are hoping to launch a camp next summer, and we are looking for clubs and that would be willing to sponsor campers. We try to keep it. Yeah, we keep it. We keep it to about a 2-week time period and try to hit a couple of really exciting things that this area, Twin Cities and the surrounding area, has to offer. Ooh. And we have a long list of, it'd be great for the kids to do this, and this. We're looking for some financial sponsorship, perhaps from clubs that would like to help us support the kids to keep it cost effective here. Because and then give some uniquely American experiences, the 4th of July, perhaps a rodeo, perhaps...
I think of Hamel Rodeo.
Well, okay. Water
That's
skiing.
a little bit further out there. Yeah.
You know, our kids, many of them alpine ski great, you know, when they come,
Sure.
international students. Not many of them have water skied. So, you know, some water ski
Did you see
lessons.
Lucy?
Yeah, got all kinds of things. And of course, the Mall
gosh.
of America, a day at the
Yeah.
Mall of America. And,
Wow.
But, we are hoping to be able to bring a dozen students here,
Okay.
one from each country or from, you know, per country, and show them the Midwest. So.
Well, if you could leave us with, I mean, because we got a little bit of time, we got about a minute left, kind of some final thoughts on the STEP program. Pitch it to the people that are out there. I mean, give us your last little bit of advice for STEP program.
Well, look into it. It costs nothing to apply and interview and find out more. And it's a relatively, I don't want to say low investment, because you do have to do some preparation and some orientation. But it is such an approachable, such an accessible program for many different kinds of students. And we've found wonderful placements for just about everybody. You know, I can count on one hand the number of oopses, but the majority of the almost 100 kids that we've sent out in the last 7 years have been great. So,
Love it.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. We're
Yes.
very excited. This was really great.
Thank you to you, Elaine. We appreciate you. I'm Kelly Kirk.
And I'm Joseph Kirk,
As a reminder, it's time to stop searching
and start serving.